How's everybody doing?
How are you, Tom?
Doing awesome. Great.
Tom, what was the biggest objective you wanted to achieve just in the time after spring game?
Yeah, I think the first phase is always the spring football piece. When you get here and you get to a new place and you're trying to establish things, and then once that concludes, then you got to set out your goals for the remainder of the summer and into training camp. So I think I had an opportunity to meet with all of our players again after the spring game, individually, which is something I put a lot of stock in, and just to be able to continue to develop the guys individually. So that was the major goal. Is once you get to know them and get the chance to see them on the field in spring ball, you get to evaluate where they're at, and then you set goals for them, in certain areas, and have their individual position coaches do that as well. And I focus more on mindset and daily habits. Really emphasize that over the summer, because that's the time when they really have the best opportunity to really develop those and build on those, because so much of it is away from the coaches more than it is during the springtime or in fall camp. So really want to see who kind of elevates themselves from a leadership perspective, but it's about really developing your body, developing your mind, mastering the system, being able to put yourself in a position to have, as I tell them, my goal is to be in the best shape of your life when you come into training camp, and then also have your best fall camp you've ever had. And so how do you do that? Well, you do it by having physically, mentally, spiritually, get yourself where you're supposed to be, and that's multi-layers. And to me, so that's the real focus was on that, and then it's just the constant accountability through that period, through our coaches, through our shrink staff, through myself, and it never ends. And so I think that's been the objective, and so we're just finishing that phase up right now. Got the rest of this week and then into next week, and we'll finish up the summer, and then they get a few days away, and then we're into fall camp.
What made Clemson the right move for you?
My family, and that was I was pretty clear about that from the beginning, and that's just proven to be an amazing opportunity here, being so close to our two daughters and our son who's with us here. But family is really important to me. My faith's really important to me. The culture that Dabo has built here is, was pretty well established and well known in regarding to the kind of environment you would be in here as a coach, and so those things just continue to be reinforced in the decision that we made. And obviously it was a part of a great place, and working for a great head coach and great people, and I really appreciate that. And it was an awesome time, but for me it was about my family, and it's proven to be an awesome thing to be able to get a lot of time together with them, way more than we ever would have had we lived in a different place, and those things matter to me.
Coach, to this point, is there an area of the defense you think is a strength and an area that you think you would like to see some improvement by the time you get to take off?
Well, we got a lot of work to do. I know there's a lot of excitement, as there always is, to start a season, and it's a new year, and everybody has a lot of high expectations for themselves and for their teams, and we're no different, but we got to develop depth. We really, I like the core guys that we have. That's been a big challenge for us this whole summer, and challenge to the players. Want to be able to play a lot of guys. I want guys to feel like that every time they step on the field, they have a starter mentality. That it's not that I'm a 2 or 3 or a 4. No, when I'm on the field, I'm the best player at this position. I'm representing that room when I take the field, and I want them to feel the pressure of that. And I think that's a powerful thing. And so that depth to me is what sticks out. We have to do a great job of being able to attack the quarterback. But the first thing you got to do before you get a chance to affect him on third downs is stop the run. So that's been a focus since I've been here. That involves run fit, that involves tackling. That we intentionally all summer long. Obviously the summer's different than it is when we're with them here. As we will be here in fall camp. But we definitely added some things to that over the summer for the guys to work on that during the summer, which I thought was very, very important to do. And so that's going to be at the forefront, is being a great tackling defense, an area that we have to improve, must improve, and you got to be able to get 11 guys in the football. So that's the effort piece. That to me, that's the one thing that I probably put the most emphasis on. Why? Because it's the one thing that every kid completely controls. Every player completely controls his effort. So those are the kind of things we want to be able to keep emphasizing as we get into camp, and that needs to be our strength. How hard we play, how physical we play. how fundamentally sound we are in everything that we do, and from tackling to gap fits to execution of what we do is really, really critical for me. So going to get some time as the schedule allows us to here. As we get closer here to camp to be able to be more time with our players, and so we'll maximize that. But the bottom line is that it's about performance at this point. We got a great opportunity ahead of us here this season, but we got a lot of work to do between now and August 30th.
Coach, you coached one of the best players in the country last season, Abdul. What are some of the things you see in TJ Parker make you think that some of the same qualities?
Well, at the end of the day is, can you get to the quarterback? And obviously TJ has shown the ability to do that in the past, and so that gets you a lot of excitement. Obviously, and those guys had similar numbers, a year ago, and I think just he has a knack to be able to position himself. He's great use of his hands. Great leverage on offensive blockers and tackles and whoever chooses to block him. I think that pops out to me. His relentless effort to get to the quarterback is another thing that sticks out on film. His work ethic, I just love how he works. Those are all key things that matter. I think his technique is continuing to get better and better all the time. He's got a great coaching staff around him up front and a lot of NFL experience there to work with him and get him ready to play at the highest level. So I think TJ Parker has worked extremely hard. Needs to have a great training camp like they all do. And obviously it's like everybody else. It's about what you do on game day, and so he had a great, campaign a year ago, but he's got to be able to elevate his game and keep getting better. And that's what I expect him to do, just like, Abdul was able to have his best season of his career in his final year this past season, and that's what I expect TJ to do this year.
Coach, you talk a lot about effort. From the time that you got here, how long does that evaluation process take in terms of judging effort? Who does see the field?
Yeah, I think it's never ending for me, so they're going to learn real fast here in fall camp that everything we established in spring ball, that wasn't just a spring ball thing, that's an everyday thing, and we will not be outlasted by our players in that regard, so we're going to be relentless in expecting that and everything that we do. So day one, day two, day three, it's going to feel just like it did when we started spring ball. So that's the expectation. But I will say, to answer your question, when does it show up? We were watching practice after, I think it was even during a scrimmage in the stadium, and there was a particular play where it was like, okay, this is starting to look the way it's supposed to look. And you just saw all 11 guys just put their foot in the ground and just fly into the ball. Empty stadium, nobody's watching. All that matters is what's on the inside and how you've been trained to respond when the ball is on the perimeter or wherever the ball goes. And we saw, and even Coach Swinney noticed it and mentioned it and commented and pointed out to the whole team. And to me, that was just kind of you saw, okay, these guys are starting to figure this out, and which is a pretty awesome thing.
Coach, it seemed like from the first press conference, you and Coach Swinney had such a great chemistry, and in the first practice, you guys were getting together. How, in what ways or in what moments have you seen that chemistry grow, and what has that been like from the press conference until now working together?
I just think there's a lot of similarities. Even though, like I said before, we've never had spent a lot of time together. Weren't close friends by any means. Talked only a handful of times over the years and had met maybe once, in person. And so, but I just think, we read the same books. We have a lot of the same values. We have a similar philosophy on life. What's important to us, and he's a unbelievably positive person and believes to focus on things in that regard and makes that your emphasis instead of what we can't do or what things might be negative around you. We focus on the things that you can do and the things that could create the outcome that you're looking for. And so I just love being around guys like that, and so I think we have a lot of similarities, and we see things the same way. We value our family. Our faith's important to us. We're going to hold people accountable. I love, man, he's a bulldog now, and with his coaches and with our players, and it don't matter who you are, no matter, and it's awesome to see. It's every day. It's in team meetings. It's in practice. It's before practice, during practice, after practice, and I love that about him. And like I said, I just think we have a lot of things in common, and it excites me to be around a person that shares those same things and the things he says. And I'm always taking notes every time he talks to our guys and team meetings and staff meetings, and we have a similar mindset. We really do, and I think that's probably the biggest key, and I just think that it affects your relationships as well, and we kind of can, we're on the same page with a lot of things, and we want a lot of the same things, and we care about a lot of the same things. And so I think that's a special thing, and that's an awesome thing. And so I think it also is a reason, you know, it kind of attracted me here, you know, just to be able to be aligned with someone like that you believe in. And I believe I can sell Clemson. Even before I knew a lot about Clemson, I could just share my heart about how I feel you build relationships, how you build a team, how you build a special culture. And he and I have a similar alignment on all those things.
We were watching Ben Boulware out here in August camp, and he was about as intense as he is on game day. Have you seen that? What does he bring to the linebacker room?
Oh yeah, he's another one. I mean, you use that word bulldog. Man, he's a relentless guy. Man, he's so passionate about football, life, holding his players to a high level of accountability. The way he held himself, how hard he played, you know, how well he prepared and studied, you know, to be able to anticipate and bark out, you know, things and call out plays and anticipate what the offense is going to do and just being demanding. You know, I love the way he coaches his guys. I mean, he's tough on them now, but you can hold people to a high level of accountability, and you can be really tough on them when they know you care about them, when they know you really genuinely love them more as a person, as a player. I believe in that. I think that's critical to relationship building, to coaching, to getting the most out of guys, and I see those qualities in him. You know, I've said before, I recruiting when he was a high school player, and just loved the way he played the game, man. It stuck out to me, the way he finished plays, the way he tackled, how hard he played, the effort piece. I love that about him. I mean, you know, he's not the biggest guy. He knows that. We joke about that quite a bit. But man, he wasn't the fastest guy. But man, he was extremely, extremely effective. He was a great leader. He was a great football player, and obviously led them here to national championship. So just being able to, you know, have a guy in that room, the room that I think kind of drives all that. You know, those linebackers, to me, they set the tone for our whole defense, and he sets the tone for that in that room. And so having him in there is massive for us. It's huge for me. I know when I first talked to Coach about coming here, that was one of the things we talked about was being coaching linebackers. And so just feel like that it's a critical position for us. I'm obviously going to be in all those meetings as well. Because that's where my eyes go. That's the position I play. That's the position I coach, and that's where my heart is. But I also know that's the group that drives the defense. You know, so he's the leader of that group, and he's doing a phenomenal job of holding them to the standard of Clemson defense.
You've been here 6 months now. Similar position last year. How would you say these first 6 months have been different from your first 6 at Penn State?
Oh, I mean, I just think, you know, coming into a defense that you know, was a little beat up, you know, and rightly so. So from and it's just what it is. And then, whereas before I went to a defense that was, you know, one of the best in the country, you know, and so that creates different challenges. That creates different, you know, how do you motivate? What do you do? What do you add? What do you change? What do you not change? And so, you know, I came here and we changed everything. I mean, we changed everything, and that was on purpose. And so, just wanted to get, you know, a completely fresh start in every way. And so, the way we called things, the way we did things, the way we practiced, you know, playbook and everything. And so, I think that you know, we got to have an edge about us. You know, we got something to prove as a defense. And I've watched a ton of film. I'm a film guy, and film doesn't lie. You know, and so you go through and you watch everything and you see what you have, and you know, we got a lot of work to do between now and our first game, without question. You know, so but I love where we are, and I love the way the players have responded. I love the way they're working right now, but it's got to continue. You know, but I think it does feel a lot different because you got to, you know, we had a big opener a year ago. We got another big opener this year, which is awesome, but that's what makes it exciting. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot to prove. That's probably the way to say it for me is this defense has a lot to prove on the field, and so it's really talking don't mean anything. You got to make plays on game day. You got to get those stops. You got to, you know, put yourself in position to win the game. So I just feel like that definitely a different you know, situation that I walked into. And but the exciting thing here is there's a standard that's been set here in the past, in the recent past, of playing great defense, and that's where expect to be this season. But we got to go prove that. We got to go do it, and it starts week 1, and it never stops. And it's got to be consistent. And that consistency to me is a big part of what we've been emphasizing as a staff, and those daily habits, and those practice habits, and those film study habits, and those things are going to show up on game day habits. And that to me is what we're really working so hard to establish. And so that's been the focus since I got here, and it's not going to stop.
Yeah, Coach Allen, those changes you're talking about, is that more of you being proactive, going to Coach Swinney saying, we need to do things different, or was it Coach Swinney coming to you and tasking you that we need to change something?
Yeah, he, as the head coach, he mentioned some things that the film showed and the stats showed, and so he obviously had his expectations for wanting to do those, but it wasn't like he had to twist my arm to do them. There are things I saw that I felt like needed to be done, and so again, that's probably back to the previous question about the alignment that he and I have and how we see things, but it's also just, good defense is good defense, and so there's certain things you have to be able to do to do that, and so I think the film kind of showed some of those things, and so we just had to, and I just wanted to create change. I knew we had to practice different. We had to, do things a different way consistently to get a different outcome on game day. So I think it was definitely collective, and even the coaches. And I wanted to hear from them. Obviously I walked into a room where I'm really the only new guy. And so obviously we added Ben, but other than that, it's the same staff as it was here before. And so those guys, I cared about what they said, what they saw, and what they felt needed to change. And because there's a lot of power and buy-in, from a group. And I'm not just a big, hey, this is what we're going to do because I say we're going to do it. No, I like guys to be able to feel a part of that. And so I got their input on what they felt like needed to change. And obviously a coach is, as the head coach is going to give his, and together we're going to make those changes and make it work.
Coach, I know you're focused more on Clemson more so than your opponents next season, but you brought up LSU, the opener. Is Nussmeier about as good as you've seen at the quarterback position?
Yeah, he's extremely talented. I'm partial to coaches' kids. I'm one, and my son, played for me and now coaches with us, and so he's you can just tell he's a student of the game. He's been around this game his whole life, and extremely accurate. But he's a talented player. He may be the best quarterback we play the entire season. And so just a ton of respect for him and what he's put on film. And obviously the talent that's around him is impressive. So yeah, that just definitely, that's the first opponent, so it's a 1-0 mindset. So that's the group that you focus on in that regard. And so just a lot of respect for us, without question, for him and the team that he has. And I think, he's going to be one of the best, if not the best quarterback we'll play the entire season. So, but I tell you what, we play a bunch of good ones. When you go through and you look at the top 10 quarterbacks projected for the NFL draft, I think I saw in there we got 6 of them during the regular season. So, and obviously he's one of them. So just really good football player, great football team.
Tom, what type of answers did you get from your linebacker depth during the spring, and what answers are you still looking for moving forward into?
Yeah, I think you have the 2 guys that have established themselves, with Sammy and Wade, and then Jeremiah coming in new. He's a guy that did a lot of really good things this spring, and want to continue to see him grow and develop, and he has. He's had a tremendous offseason. He's worked extremely hard, been one of our top workers. When we go through it, even just met yesterday, and his name came up multiple times, from our strength staff and from our coaches, and watching him work this summer. I think D has had a great offseason as well. And just really excited about him. And man, what a great mindset, great worker, cares so much. We need him. Kobe didn't practice in the spring, and that's the one there. Jamal didn't practice in the spring much, and he got injured early. And so those guys, to me, we're expecting them. We need to see them. The last 2 I just mentioned did not practice this spring, and so their fall camp's going to be huge. And so just really feel like that whole room to me, CJ is another guy that's got to step up and need that depth, and even Drew's young, Wade's younger brother, but shows flashes and does a lot of great things. And so I just, to me, that's a room to me that should give us great depth on special teams. great, experience on special teams, tackling in space, making plays in space. Our 2 cover units, I always consider those the first snap of the defensive series, whether it's covering a punt or covering a kickoff, and those are critical, and those should be just littered with linebackers. So to me, those guys make up that group, and I'm excited about them, but we got to have a great training camp.
On the D-line, what is TJ Parker to free up everything else because of his ability?
Well, when you have a guy on one edge, that creates disruption, that affects the quarterback, that without question is a guy that the opposing team has to have a plan for. That's huge, and that affects everybody else. You only have so many linemen. You can help those linemen with the tight end, you can help them with the running back, and schematically, or the quarterback can just try to throw off of him. So, but bottom line is that kind of player, creates, an adjustment by the offense. And so then we have a plan to be able to react to that, and so had a similar situation a year ago with a young man that they had to do that with. And so it allows you to be able to structurally do some things, and you try to use that to your advantage, and also you try to, get them to be able to, they're going to have to block them, and so hopefully they're going to feel like they got to take more than just one guy to block them. Well, if you do that, then that affects and frees up other guys, So I just think that it's a situation where, he's a great player. He's worked extremely hard. We expect him to have his best season he's ever had this year, because that's what you do when you're a great player. You just keep getting better every single year, and you just keep being more effective. And so I just think that he's got a great mindset. Love how he works. I love how he handles himself. He's a humble guy that is very appreciative of what he's been given here, and he's just proud to be a Clemson Tiger, which is pretty awesome.
What stands out about Peter as you've kind of gotten to know him? And, you saw him from a distance, but when you've gotten up close and got to know the person.
Yeah, I tell you, he big, powerful football player. Just can manhandle individuals. Not a lot of guys can do that in the box at this level, and I think he's a tremendous person. He's got a great demeanor about him. He's respected by his teammates. He's got a good heart for people, for others. I love that about him, and he's a worker. I think sometimes talented guys, respond to that differently. I think that, and I challenged him when I got here about, his body composition and just his weight, and just I wanted him to be lean and explosive and powerful, and felt like there's things we needed to change with that, and he responded. After Coach Eason, did a great job with that, our strength staff, our nutrition staff, and just being able to allow him to have a great season, coming up, and just felt like that a guy like that, and I just wanted to see him be, in elite, physical condition, so he can play more snaps and be more dominant and be more effective, and I think he's at his best, when he's inside. That's what he is. That's what he does well. So just being able to have other guys that allow him to do that. So, but just, right now it's about work ethic. He's had a great offseason. We have several guys we've targeted to be able to, elevate themselves, and he was one of them, because I think he has another level to go to from watching him on film, and he obviously did some great things last year, but I think he can play a lot better. I really do, and so that's our goal, is to get him to be playing his best football.
Talking about going to another level, can Jeadyn Lukus, he's a guy that came here as a 5-star guy that had big expectations, that maybe injuries or other reasons hadn't gotten there. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, so he's one of those guys where when I went through and evaluated the defense, I had him like, this guy's got all the physical traits that you're looking for, and so I met with him individually, and I gave him a comparison. I said, this is kind of how I see you, and now he was injured. He didn't practice in the spring, so I've not seen him practice yet, other than work out, those kind of situations, but anxious to see him in fall camp. And you're right, I mean, he's one of our most talented players, and he has the speed, the length, the athleticism, the vertical jump, the broad jump, all the physical traits, all the things that it takes to be great. He's a tough kid, and excited to get him healthy and keep him healthy. That's going to be a major objective for us. But yeah, to me, he's a guy that doesn't get talked about probably enough, in my opinion. But he's got to prove it. He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to go out there and make plays on game day. But I'm excited for him. I'm excited about him, and I believe he's poised to have a great season, and I expect him to. I think he's special.
You mentioned Peter being one of the group of players who wanted to raise their level, and maybe their conditioning, or body composition, or some of the other ways.
I said, as a collective group, to me, I think Ricardo Jones was another one. I saw him as a guy that we needed to play at an elite level. I saw flashes of that. Kylan Griffin is another guy that stuck out to me, that I saw flashes. I would be watching film, and that's kind of how I do this. I go through and I watch film from the previous season and just like, okay, this guy sticks out, this guy sticks out, and even whatever their role is, whatever they're playing. And those two guys, I was even watching film even the other day. I'm like, man, who that guy just flashed? And it was Kylan Griffin, and so it was just like those kind of guys and that have to step up for us to be an elite defense. I feel like that. I know he's new, but I think Will Help to me is a guy that he came here with a great work ethic and mindset. But when you got a guy on one side of the ball that plays a certain way like TJ does, you got to have somebody on the other side, to be able to keep them honest up front. And I think Will can be that guy. I think Cade, to me, he plays extremely hard, but I wanted to see him do some things with his body. I wanted to be able to get him bigger and stronger and be a guy that's made more plays. Because his efforts is always there, but I want to see him be more productive, because that's where this all comes to me is that when you've got a defense where they just can't focus on certain guys, where you just got a whole unit that no matter who we put in there, they're going to be somebody they got to handle, they got to deal with. And so I think even K-Park to me is the guy that, and I haven't seen him either. We had several guys that did not get to play or did not get to practice in the spring due to some injuries, and he was another one of those. And so, but I think he's a guy that I see needs to elevate himself. He needs to be a dominant football player, and I believe he can be. Steph Island Green's another one to me that flashed. I'm like, hey, this guy's athletic, this guy's explosive, he's got some different twitch to him. And to me, he's another one that stuck out to me on film. And there were several, and that's what I guess it excited me about this group, that I feel like that there's another level to go to, and that all sounds great, and we got to do it, and so that's where it's about, It's not about the potential that they think you might have or what someone thinks you can do. It's hey, I want to hear, and Coach said yesterday, it was an awesome way to say it. It's the only articles that matter are the ones that are written about how you just perform. Not the articles written about what you can do or what people think you can do or what we as coaches think you can do. I want to know what you just did. And so how do you do that? You do it by having great daily habits. And you do that by responding to coaches challenging you. Say, hey, I see this in you. So that's one thing I try to do, just pulling guys in. And when I have my one-on-one meetings with them, just to say, this is what I see that you can become. It's up to you to get there. And so those are several guys that I saw that.
So your biggest question about the back end of this defense is safety?
Probably that's probably the least proven. We got more guys in the box that have probably been productive and made plays. The safety position would be the one that kind of sticks out. I think Khalil Barnes, to me, can be as good as he wants to be. He's our most versatile guy, can play a lot of positions, can play the high safety position, can play the tiger, which is the nickel, can even play corner if he needed to. But he's a versatile guy, but he's one guy, and he's another guy I challenge, because I feel like his ceiling is still, there's more for him to go to as a player, and he's responded, and that's been awesome to see. Worked extremely hard this summer, and I think Ronan Handafin's another one. I know he had limited reps a year ago at the safety position, moving over from wide receiver. Got a ton of reps in the spring. This fall camp's going to be massive for him to get him ready by game one. Already mentioned Ricardo, already mentioned Kylan. I think several guys there. Those guys that came out of spring ball as our top four. Other guys are right in the mix. And then there's guys breathing down their necks and on their heels and forcing them to just have to work every day, because it's all about competition for me. And there's really no set positions right now. Guys got to earn it, during practice. But that probably the one position that sticks out the most would be safety. It's the least proven. But I do think that the talent is there. You just got to do a great job as coaches, and the players got to respond to be able to be in position. And when they get in those positions to make plays, they got to make them.
Coach, when you talk about the articles written, there were definitely some articles written about Brian Kelly said they're the depth values. What he said yesterday. I know Peter Woods retweeted tweeted that there's some motivation bulletin board material, but what role do you feel comments like that play? Is that a motivation type of thing, or is that block out the noise? How do you?
Yeah, I'm a block out the noise guy. You know, I use the phrase in my coaching career: earmuffs and blinders. You block it out. You know, you don't hear the outset. But here's the thing about that. You know, when you think about an earmuff, it just muffles what you hear because you're going to hear things, right? And so, and blinders aren't like this. Blinders are like this. You can still see. You got a focus. You know, and to me, the focus is we got to play our best football right out of the gate, and that's the focus. We got to be at our best week one. And that to me, that's why playing an opponent that forces you to do that week one, I love that. And I've been in a situation twice when I was the head coach of Indiana. We opened the season against Ohio State, you know, and they were either number one or number two, you know, in both of those years. And so similar situation, you know, where you're going to open against one of the best teams in the country right out of the gate. And so to me, that's the focus, is us being our best. And really nothing else matters. And so I want intrinsically motivated guys, you know, that understand that this is about how we prepare and ultimately how we perform. And obviously we know who we're playing week one, and we have a lot of work to do before that day gets here.
All right, thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate it.